It is time. It is time to rank our rookie wide receivers. We do this every week. We had a few wide receivers into the mix, trying to make the group a little bigger, rank them into tiers, and see how it flows. We make some changes every week. We move some guys up and down. We have some fun with it. We talk some ball. If there's a guy missing from the group, he'll probably end up being here. Eventually, that doesn't mean they're not valued. It just means it's just not their time yet. But let's go ahead. Let's go to the tier maker. Let's go ahead and rank some of these rookie wide receivers. And let's see what I'm thinking about on these receivers on this Friday night. Because I do make some changes often to flip every time I do this video when I start talking through this process here. Forcing myself to do this every week. Mainly because this forces me to really look into these guys. To keep at it. To keep grinding for you guys. But let's start with the S tier here. Jackson Smith-Njigba, Jordan Addison, Quentin Johnston. Not much has changed since the start. I'm leaning more Jackson Smith-Njigba as my top guy. Jordan Addison's got a safe floor. And I don't hate Quentin Johnston. I actually really like him. I think for these three, the NFL draft's going to shake it out for me, but I'm leaning Jackson Smith-Njigba overall. But things get interesting in A tier. I got somebody new for it. A tier's got a new guy in it, and he deserves to be there. We're going to start off with Kayshon Boutte, Josh Downs, Zay Flowers, Jalen Hyatt, and now it's time for the new guy. We're going to move up from tier A. He's graduated. It is Marvin Mims. Dude's been flashing in my reports, in my spreadsheets. Good breakout age. Good production. Outlasted the craziness over at Oklahoma with Spencer Rattler and the coach leaving and all that stuff. Just all that craziness. Comes back, has a good year. Makes plays downfield. Has good tape. Good speed. Be a really good number 2 for an NFL team. Good enough to be productive. Has speed. There's a lot of good stuff. Think he'll get some draft capital too. Think he'll be drafted higher than people are letting on to be. I see him a big riser in the draft community. I understand that. He's a riser for me too. If it weren't for draft capital, I have him up here and then flirting with these guys. Honestly, I think he's smooth. I think for this class, he's a guy you need to look into. Jalen Hyatt scares the shit out of me. If it weren't for draft capital, I'd have his ass down here. Another thing too, can't ignore him because air yards. The thing about this, it could be a scary dynasty asset if you don't know how to play it. Because you got to know how to, and when to chase these type of players. Because I do not see him as fundamentally developed as Zay Flowers, Josh Downs, Kayshon Boutte at his best, even Marvin Mims. But those targets deep downfield can hit. I'm talking Will Fuller style. But Will Fuller, guys like that, they were more developed coming out. But we got to see what Jalen Hyatt can do. Right situation, he could be nasty. That's the thing about that. I want to be dead on him, but I can't. Because I know fundamentally that he has a lot of upside in the right spot. And if he just develops a little bit, that could be something. But he scares the shit out of me. I like Zay Flowers. I like him a lot because he gets downfield, good ball skills, good breakout metrics. I like Josh Downs. But the thing about him is I feel like he's more slot. I think he can be on the outside a little bit because he is kind of nuanced, but I feel like he's going to be destined for a slot. But when I feel him as a comparison, I don't do player comps, but as a fantasy comparison for output, how they play the game, maybe like an Elijah Moore type of prospect where you're getting those type of results. But it'd be different if he, as long as he doesn't go to the Jets. Maybe more upside there. So what if we saw Elijah Moore with a better team, with a better quarterback? Maybe that's what we're going to get out of Josh Downs. Maybe. Zay Flowers could be that player that sneaks up on us because he gets downfield, makes plays, be in the slot, probably can be on the outside. Interested to see what he does at the combine. My thoughts on Kayshon Boutte has not changed. When I look at this group of wide receivers, and then look at the group of the wide receivers in the NFL, And I view the wide receiver 2 as a huge bubble of like 80 players that just jockey for a position each week. And I really want to shoot for players who can be at the top of that bubble or get out of it and be like a top tier player, because I know I can always make that up pretty easily on trades if I miss. And this is granted if I miss. That being said, if I'm shooting for straight upside, and when I mean upside, potential to be a wide receiver 1 in value, Kayshon Boutte, I want him up there. That's why I have him at the top of this tier or back of this tier. With these guys, thing about that, draft capital isn't going to be up with these 3, but at his best, he was around here. Before he had the injury, before the coaching change at LSU, before all that stuff, before 2022, he was around here. What if he goes back to that? What if? Right now, he's kind of like the George Pickens of the class. Not player comp, but style. Not even style comp. Situation comp. Where you had that down year due to injury. Played a little bit. Then you come out for the draft. Everyone's fading you a little bit because they don't know what to do. Sometimes you just got to take that discount, see what happens, close your eyes. And that's probably what you're going to have to do with Kayshon Boutte. Because when you look at all these guys down here, B, C, D, E tier, then you look at the NFL landscape at wide receiver, you got a lot of guys who just jockey in position for that wide receiver 2. Sometimes you got to swing that bat, swing for the fences, hope for the wide receiver 1. If it doesn't hit and you miss out, the one thing you can say is I can get back at that wide receiver 2 that just jockeys for position pretty easy because there's so much of them. They're diluted. There's inflationary here. There's a lot of inflation in this market here at the wide receiver spot, whether you want to like it or not. The top tier guys, the Justin Jeffersons, the Jamar Chases, CeeDee Lambs, you want to hold on to them with a vice grip because you ain't getting many of those. That's why shooting your shot on a Boutte, a Jackson Smith and Jigba, these top guys are kind of critical. Tier B. From last week, I got Parker Washington. So compared to a lot of people, I'm a little higher on Parker Washington. I feel like he's going to be a cheaper slot. He is a slot receiver right now. He's a big slot, 215 pounds. Shines a little bit on the metrics. Got a decent breakout age. On top of that, that was with Jahan Dotson there, sharing the field there with a very good wide receiver and a low volume passing offense. I can't get rid of Raheem Jarrett. Especially if he lights it up at the combine. If he lights up the combine, I can see people like going nuts and throwing him up here. I'm being conservative still. But that might be where my flag's at. I don't have a guy in this draft yet. Maybe it has to be Raheem Jarrett. But I'm not there yet. 5-star prospect. Has shown some stuff. Just hovering there in the metrics. Just hovering there. Just not enough. Those down seasons. But you know it's Maryland. You see what he does, and then at this point, there's upside here. Where is he going to draft? Who's going to draft him? When he's on the field, what's he going to do? What if he was just not in the right spots? You got Baby Tua there slinging the rock, stinking things up there in Maryland. What if that played a huge part of it, and he's just going to ball out? Or maybe he's just a guy that goes undrafted. I don't think so, especially if he lights up the combine. We're going to see with him, he's a wild card. We're going to finish up Tier B right here. Xavier Hutchinson. He's a little bit older. Play a little JUCO ball. Started his D1 career a little late. But once he got to D1, instantly productive. Held that production. Was very productive last year. Big-bodied player. Can post up. Can get downfield. I can see how he can win at the NFL level. Tier C, I have him in Tier C. I don't like him at all. I don't like this dude at all. And that's Rashee Rice. A lot of people have him higher. I think Big Draft liked him because they wanted to play that G5 guy with good film. But he's old as shit. He's at least 23 years old. He's old as shit. Old G5 wide receiver, something I don't want on my teams. I might get draft capital, so I'll have him hang out there at C. But I'm going to make fun of him all year. I'm going to make fun of those draft nicks. He better hit. He better hit, or we're just going to pull receipts. Because I'm not a big fan of that guy. Cedric Tillman. I like him. I like him. I like some of his old tape, but I'm starting to fade on him. I'm starting to fade on him throughout the process, his age, stuff like that. I know he's been battling some injuries throughout his career. I've seen what he can do. I'm just not super excited. But I am excited about Tank Dell. I feel like he's going to be a good cheap slot receiver. He's got some speed. Going to go in a part of a draft where he's going to be a cheap get for an NFL team. And I'm talking tier C here in a suspect class. So it's not like I'm over the moon. Tier S kind of stands for stud, but there's no Justin Jeffersons in this class. There's no Jamar Chases in this class. There's some guys that could get you some upside that could jump in value, but there's no generational guys in this class. There might be some guys that can jump in value and be regarded as a top 10 wide receiver or something like that, but there's no Justin Jeffersons in this class. There's a totally different thing. This class has some spots where it can be very lucrative. It can be the rainbow road of wide receivers where a lot of people are going to say, this class sucks, this class sucks. There are some things you can look at here at this class where you might be able to catch some patch-up jobs, some players that hit a little bit, hit for a short term, be better than expected. We got a lot of those in S and A, a little bit in B. Rice and Tillman, I'm kind of scared of, but Tank Dell is going ahead of them. He might be one of those guys that emerge. He's very cerebral. He's got a lot of burst. Dontavian Wicks, athletic guy, size. I've been on to him for too long. Been watching him for too long. I actually like him better than those guys, and I'm really willing to chase on him at this point in the game. And then Trey Palmer. I'm up on him. I'm actually going to put him ahead of Dell right now, just in case. But he shines up on the metrics a little bit, flashes, has some decent tape, a guy that I'm chasing. And then D, I'm going Puka Nacua here. And D, production's kind of weird with him. A little bit of an older prospect, but not too old. Production's okay. Lit it up a little bit on the back end there. Michael Wilson's got some good tape on him. Did well at the Senior Bowl. And then I got a surpriser, a new guy here I want to talk about. And he's sneaky. He's sneaky because he lights it up on the metrics. But low volume passing offense. But when you look on tape, he's explosive. He just makes big plays out of nowhere. Ronnie Bell. Have not talked about him at all. Ronnie Bell's explosive. He's got some good breakout metrics. He's got some good market share metrics. Again, we're at D tier here. And we want to see where he gets drafted at. Because he could be a cheap slot. Usually slot receivers you want to pay down at. Because they're not wide receiver 1s or 2s. Those slot receivers you pay down on in the draft. The real NFL draft. Some of those emerge. He might be a guy that does that. If he gets decent draft capital. Could be early day 3. There might be a chance he sneaks up on us. Because he is explosive. He's been in college football for a long time, but he had that injury in 2021. He's a player you want to look at because he's got some interesting metrics. Power 5 school, low volume passing offense, though. It's one thing to look at. Another guy I like, A.T. Perry. Another old wide receiver prospect. That's why he's down here in the ranks. Good ball skills. Lights up on tape. Some good metrics on the back end of his career. Something to look at. Charlie Jones at E. He's old as shit. He's old as shit. I think he's going to be like 25 years old in October. 25 in October. He's older than a lot of veterans. He's older than a lot of wide receivers. And you may say, hey, he can't help that. He played for 3 different colleges. But the odds are super stacked against him. Just so stacked against him. Like, I don't even care. If he does hits, I'm going to say, well, the process was right, whether it was wrong or not. A lot of people loved Andre going into the Senior Bowl. Older wide receiver from Princeton. He's Jeff Janis of this class, kind of. Very athletic. Want to see where he goes in the draft, but I know it's going to be really late. We all know it's going to be really late. Seems like these type of wide receivers always land into a lucrative spot. We try to latch onto them, and they never work out. Tyler Scott. He's got speed. He's a speedy slot. Like Ronnie Bell, but not as much production. Guy you want to watch for. Because those slot receivers who's got some speed, if they just land in this situation where they work up the depth chart a little bit, kind of like how Cole Beasley did, not a player comp, just what he did in his career, you could see that. Those slot receivers just sneak up on you. We've seen it throughout a long time in the NFL. That could happen with some of these guys. We got some slot receivers here in the back half that are interesting, but we always do. And the hit rate's not that great, but you always want to keep an eye on them. You don't have to draft them. You might be just paying attention to them off the waiver wire. Really depends on where they go in the draft and how they go in rookie drafts. I don't think I'm really going to make any changes. I hate Rashee Rice, and draft capital is not a given. And I like Puka Nacua better than him and Michael Wilson. A lot of people like him. I'm going to move Cedric Tillman down as well. I like Trey Palmer, Nathaniel Dell, and Dontavian Wicks interest me. I'm not moving on from them. The thing is, I like A.T. Perry a lot as well. But he's a possession receiver, can make plays downfield, not super athletic. Not a guy that's going to burn you, and draft capital may not be there with him as well. Really, when I like about this draft, obviously the top three guys, obviously Kayshon Boutte. Josh Downs could be a very good slot receiver who can give you production. Zay Flowers can be that, maybe more. I like him a lot. Marvin Mims is a huge riser for me. Jalen Hyatt, I'm just holding on to the draft capital. If that wasn't there, and if I knew he wasn't the air yards guy, I'd be out. Parker Washington I like, and I'm liking him more by the week. Xavier Hutchinson, my feelings were a little bit higher a couple weeks ago. They're kind of just flatlining right now. They're not dropping, but I'm just weighing my options. Raheem Jarrett just seems like a guy that could really be something or be nothing. And there's nothing in between. Like, he's either going to be a good wide receiver in the NFL or he's just kicking cans at the USFL. Like, there's no in between. Like, it's either all the way or nothing. He's an all or nothing type of wide receiver. Just from his profile, just from what I see. Compared to everybody else on the board, though, I want to chase that because I don't care about getting a wide receiver that gives me one wide receiver 3 season or get lucky with that. I'd rather shoot my shot. He falls out, then I move on to the next thing. I want to shoot for that upside considering how the landscape is at wide receiver and how deep it is. If I'm in a league where I'm starting 5 wide receivers or more, then we're talking. But if I'm in your traditional Dynasty league, we're starting 3 wide receivers, maybe a flex, I'm shooting for upside because I can make that up. That's my plan here at the wide receiver. That's how I'm attacking it. I'm leaning running back in drafts. Like I've said, for the last year and a half, we've been planning for this draft way in advance. And I've been telling you what this draft was going to be like way in advance. I was planning on going wide receiver last year and pounding running back this year. That hasn't changed. That's the macro, though. In the micro, you take the values at wide receiver because there will be values. Because I'm not the only one doing that. And there's people watching this channel. People re-saying what I'm saying off this channel. And people are going to follow that. I know that because a lot of people tell me that. Thing is, do not sleep on the wide receiver class just because it's proclaimed bad. Look at the values. You're going to find guys falling at values in this draft. I guarantee one of these 3, the big 3 everybody likes, one of these guys are going to fall because they don't go to a grand situation, and you're going to catch a value. Kayshon Boutte might be a huge value. Zay Flowers might sneak in the first. If he sneaks in the first and he's super good, like we're saying he is, like if Josh Downs went to a good spot in the first, wouldn't we move him up to here anyways? I mean, S doesn't mean stud. It just means you're, like, better than the rest, really. You can move him up here. That's why we got him front. Marvin Mims could carry second-round draft capital. What if he goes to a good situation? How far are you bumping him up? Jalen Hyatt to the Chargers. That changes things, right? Just think about those landing spots. If he goes to a team with volume, with a quarterback that pushes it downfield, doesn't care, and Throw God's the quarterback off TikTok, you know Jalen Hyatt's getting some targets and they're going deep. that's when you're going to like Jalen Hyatt. But if he goes to a jabroni quarterback, say it's him and Bryce Young, say it's him, some other quarterback that is not lucrative, that's not just slinging rockets downfield, you're not touching him at all. Even if he hits, you're not touching him because he's not going to hit. It's not going to play to his skill set. And he could be a good wide receiver after some time. But honestly, he's got a lot to develop in his skill set. Parker Washington could be that slot that breaks out on us. Bigger wide receiver, good hands, good ball skills. I think that's it. I think I'm good on the rankings for this week. Let me know down in the comments what you think. Who are the wide receivers you're going after? What's your thought process? What's your strategy? I want to hear about all of it. Just drop it like it's hot down there. Make sure to hit that subscribe button on the way out. It's only going to help you going forward for your Dynasty teams, rookie drafts, everything else. I want to thank you for watching. Catch you on the next video.